to the Greenwood room at the Omni. We told you that my name was Dr. Robert Payne. We told you that I was an economist from Washington and a futurist. The only thing that we didn't tell you was that I was not going to make any sense whatsoever. Well, here's what we found. All right, now let me ask you this. One of the things that has come down through the economic volatility that we've seen throughout the country and throughout the world, for that matter, is the ability, of course, with that to the notion, not only with business, but with industry itself. What things that you might be able to say would be to earmark in that in terms of keeping it on a positive note about, and then, of course, with it industry-wide?
We're seeing a big change in systems from a large mainframe-based waterfall approach to systems development, where now we're seeing the client-server market taking over, using CASE to design, and then moving into a lot of the GUI interfaces where they're going to provide a lot of the usability factors that make applications easy to use, easy to learn, and easy to develop. Now,
you mentioned something about GUI interfaces. Is that like, GUI? What is that?
Oh, it's the point-and-click types of applications that we've seen out of Macintosh that now the IBM world is coming out with, and Synon is, in fact, developing. And those are colored, nice, user-friendly pull-down windows and action bars that give them the ease of use, again, that we've come to expect.
But y'all certainly don't mean, like GUI, like globular GUI or anything.
No.
As an offshoot of that, I guess it would be, you mentioned the various languages, and I know the ones that I've mastered over the years, including that when they needed, of course, with that to the application, not only with the technology, but certainly as a test itself in terms of that without enlightenment. And it was one of the speculation on your part as to what maybe an indication that I might be saying myself this morning.
Well, what I'm suggesting by languages, I'm not talking about software languages. I'm talking about the human languages. We will be able to, which is very important. When you're dealing with the user today, we can't just expect them to pick up English and use it. We've got to be able to have it in German, in Chinese, in Russian, and whatever language that's required out there. And that's what the software industry is going to be doing in the 90s with the tools we have available.
Let me ask you this. One of the things that we in the Washington area, of course, within the Globe Watcher there, with the nation's overall economic forecasting, would like to see what the individuals have to say in terms of the overall indication that might be needed, of course, with the software industry itself. And then, of course, that might be where we're going in terms of what elements they are to put in there on a positive note.
Sure. I think the economy for software, especially for mid-range software, is definitely picking up. We're seeing a lot more activity in the last quarter than we have last year, so we see very positive signs in the economy.
And also one of the things that we limited, of course, with it to the notion of that in terms of the feedback that we've been getting so far here in Atlanta would be, of course, give us indication. In fact, we may see more of the same. And of course, with that, one of the reasons we might be able to take that back even further.
Oh yeah, I think there's several factors in the economy that are helping mid-range, and particularly sign-on-based types of applications and sign-on developers. I think that the impact of the economy is making a lot of companies tighten their belts and look at their expense profiles, cut back expenses, and there's a lot of right-sizing going on in terms of systems. People are looking at mainframe budgets and old expensive systems that maybe they can replace and do much better, get much more productivity out of mid-range type case-based systems. So I think that's driving a growth in the mid-range market very distinctively.
I limited, of course, with it to the nature of that, not only where they have seen, but I think some of the product management itself has seen to it that we did it, of course, with it to the nature of that. Was wondering if that might be something you think personally that we'll see more or less of.
Definitely.
I took the words right out of my mouth. And went to that, of course, that our indication would be made. Which meant that not only that y'all might be able to pull out here at the conference here in Atlanta, but certainly be able to take back that with it in terms of the not for the price itself.
Well, things are definitely looking up. I see a lot of enthusiasm from the people of the conference, and that makes me feel better about the way the economy is going, the way my job's going.
Well, that was it. And what I'm going to do is we're going to ask you now to be able to give us, in your own words, some of the thoughts that you mandated, of course, with it to the overall economy.
Okay.
As to what mandated, of course, with it to the, so back in there, certainly with the notion where we're going.
Okay.
Okay? Yes, if you're eliminated, of course, with it to the, so back in there, certainly with the notion of that, with the economy. And Jorge, I'd like for you, if what eliminated, of course, with that to the nature that at this time of be able to give, eliminated, of course, with your own words, because these are mine.
Okay.
Okay?
Sure.
Yeah, and with that comes the notion of that, well, I mean, and a high on in terms of that with the industry itself, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Good. Let me ask you this. One of the things that we've been asking the various attendees is to give their thoughts in terms of the overall, limited, of course, with it to the, so back in there, certainly with the notion of that as to where the economy has placed the different variables in the industry itself in terms of software. What things you might be able to say that, from your standpoint, might be done to further enhance that in terms of where the industry is going?
Well, I think the industry, from our standpoint, the software industry, are really looking for ways to improve productivity issues, productivity and cost issues. So I think that people who are in our industry are well advised to offer technology and pieces of software, if you will, that reduce cost and increase productivity of the end users.
Just back up and go, of course, with that to into then what that might be, of course, with that to the notion with that with the back in there with case, say as an example.
Yeah. Well, basically, what I'm seeing is that people are looking to case to increase their return on their investment in their software staffs and in the packages that they've bought and such. And in fact, I think to some extent it favors case. An uncertain economy favors case because it gives people more flexibility to fly off in a different direction when the economy demands it.
Now, let me ask you this, Christy. Let me that of course with that to the in terms of your own words with the economy and what may be seen in terms of that with the software industry itself.
I think I know what you're trying to say. I think that the UK and the European economies have been in trouble over the last couple of years. I think we're now beginning to see signs that we're coming out of it. And Synon, despite the difficulties, has managed to keep on selling its product and growing its revenues over the last couple of years.